It's Monday. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the 22nd day of August 2022. I am joined again by the kitten. Remember, this kitten wants you to subscribe to my vlog. Subscribe to my blog. Do not upset this kitten. All right, it's me and this crappy camera. And today we're taking the final look at the first draft of the AD&D playtest from our friends at Wizards of the Coast. But before we go forward, let's just make a couple of things clear, okay? Number one, I don't care what anybody says, that AD&D working title, they're probably going to change the name, is not the end of the edition wars. Suddenly, there's no magic thing that's going to make the other games that I own vanish. There's no magic thing that's going to make everybody on the planet just stop what they're doing and rush to AD&D to play that. In fact, it does appear that the opposite is happening. People are rushing away to AD&D. With the exception of a few small members of the shallow end of the 5e crowd, almost everything I'm hearing is no. Surprisingly, the loudest voices that are complaining about this are the supposed 5e fans. I mean, sure, a lot of the OSR, the non-5e players are saying, yeah, no, this isn't for me. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, no, I'm just going to go over the OSR. But most of you, 80% of those guys were already playing the OSR and already saying, I don't like 5e. And the other 20% are, 5e players who are going, yeah, I don't like this direction. But the main negative commentary comes from that small end of the 5e swimming pool who are saying, how dare you do this, Wizards of the Coast? This super inclusive game isn't inclusive enough for us. I mean, somebody was complaining because now anybody could know sign language in AD&D, and I guess that meant that their character wasn't special anymore because they played a character who knew sign language, and they're like upset now that everybody can know sign language if they want. But the whole point, wasn't it, was to make it more diverse and more approachable and more like so everybody could be the same and nobody stood out and everybody could be whatever they wanted. So if everybody could be whatever they wanted it, and if I wanted a character that could speak sign language, that would feed into the everybody can be what they wanted mentality. So why are you sponsor me, soda. Dr. Pepper with ginger. Yeah, that's what I'm... So, yeah. Anyways, today we are looking at the rules glossary. Now, somewhere hidden in here is one of the main things people are complaining about. I've read through it once, and I couldn't find it, but we're going to read through it again. Rules glossary. So, basically, anything you didn't understand in here, this is going to explain. And any rule changes, we're now going to go over. Okay. Arcane spells. Arcane spells draws on the ambient magic of the multiverse. Bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards harness this magic, as do artificers. There's a partial artificers. I'm probably saying that wrong. There's a partial list of the arcane spells at the end of the document. So as of now, there are only 3 spell categories: arcane, divine, and primal. So every arcane caster will now draw from one list. So we won't have like a list of wizard spells and a list of sorcerer spells. It'll just be a list of arcane spells. I'm fine with that. It seems utterly pointless that sorcerers and wizards have completely different spell lists when basically they're the same spells. It's not like a sorcerer has access to a spell no one else has, like a cleric, So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with sorcerers, wizards, and even bards drawing from the arcane spell. Though I think, bards should be able to draw from whatever spell list they want because that's kind of their thing. Artificers, I guess they draw from spells because they make things that duplicate the abilities of spells. So technically, yes, that one's... I don't know. Warlocks. It would seem that they would be from the divine or primal list since they draw their powers from other planar sources, not arcane, but, whatever. Warlock doesn't make sense to me anyways, but whatever. Artisan tools. You get the skill to use these. There'll be a list in the player's handbook, but we'll never actually explain what any of them do. Creature type. Okay. Every creature type, including every player character, has a special tag. aberration, beast, celestial, construct, dragon, elemental, fae, fiend, giant, humanoid, monstrosity, because we couldn't think of anything else, ooze, plant, and undead. I don't think a monstrosity is necessary. You know, beast. An owlbear and a bear are just both beasts. There's nothing exceptional about an owlbear, other than it looks different. D20 tests. There's 3 main D20 tests. Ability checks, attack rolls, saving throws. The DM determines the challenge rating. You roll a D20, you add your math. Bomb. Rolling a 1. Rolling a 1 on a D20 test is automatically fails, regardless of any modifiers to the rules. I don't know if that's new. I mean, if you could you add modifiers to 1s before in skill checks? I don't think so. I thought, you know, even with skill checks, 1s were always a 1. All right, so far, nothing new. Rolling a 20. If you roll a 20 on a D20 test, you automatically succeed regardless of any modifiers to the roll for skills. Okay, this is for skills. A player character also... Oh, this is new, I think. A player character also gains inspiration when rolling a Nat 20 thanks to this remarkable cess. Rolling a D20 doesn't bypass limitations on the test such as range and line of sight. The 20 bypasses only bonuses and penalties to the roll. Okay, so every time I roll a natural 20, I gain inspiration now, which means, you know, I'm averaging 3 per game. So I've got 3 inspirations per game. If you don't remember what inspiration is, inspiration basically allows you to call advantage on any one dice roll before a long rest. They vanish. Inspiration, I guess, goes away either at the end of the game or a long rest, whichever comes first. But so I would have 3 times I could call advantage. That needs to be better explained and separated, because that's just the kind of thing 80% of people are going to gloss over. So it either should be a separate paragraph or it should be highlighted or in a box. Because I'm telling you now, if that sticks, yeah, 8 out of 10 are not going to even remember that. Critical hits. Okay, so this is the one that's got a lot of people upset. Weapons and unarmed strikes have a special feature for player characters. Critical hits. If a player character rolls a natural 20 on an attack roll with a weapon, the attack is also a critical hit, which means it deals extra damage to the target. You roll the damage dice a second time and add the second roll as extra damage to the target. For example, a mace deals 1d6 plus your strength modifier. If you roll a critical hit, you roll 2d6 plus your strength modifier. So you don't double your strength modifier. If your weapon or unarmed strike has no damage dice, it deals no extra damage on a critical hit. Is there something that does absolutely no damage? Strike to stun, I guess. Okay, so the thing is this, people are assuming that this means monsters don't get to critical. Because it says, have a special feature for player characters. It doesn't just say everybody gets to roll natural 20 and gets the critical. So a lot of people, it seems like, have read this and have seemed to come away with this, that the bad guys don't get the critical for natural 20. So if a player character rogue is fighting an NPC bandit, even though they're exactly the same, the player character, if he rolls a natural 20, gets critical, but if the NPC bandit rolls a natural 20, he doesn't. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that the bad guys don't get natural characters. Remember, this is just talking about player characters right now. We're not talking about everything else yet. So we cannot say for certain that this is saying, oh, bad guys don't get natural 20 critical hits anymore. But we'll keep reading to see if it actually does say that. But so far, I think people are just mistaking that. It's because this is only focusing on players' characters right now. It's not focusing on anything else in the game. So once we get to the monsters and the bad guys in combat, that could change. Divine spells, clerics and paladins. Gaming set, we know what that is. Grappled condition. While you're grappled, you're experiencing the following effects. Speed 0. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. Movable. The grappler can drag or carry you, but the grappler suffers the slow condition. Escape. When grappled, you can make a dexterity or strength saving throw against the grappler's DC to end at the end of each turn, ending the constitution. So they've gone to a little bit more work to try and explain grapple, you know what? Pathfinder still did it best. It just made hand-to-hand a stat. BAB, BAD. Base attack bonus, base attack defense. Just make punching and kicking and grappling a stat and save the middleman. Okay. Incapacitated. When you're incapacitated, the following happens. You cannot take an action. You cannot concentrate on anything. You cannot speak. And you roll disadvantage on surprised if you're rolling initiative. So if you're incapacitated and combat breaks out, you roll disadvantage on initiative because you're incapacitated. I would just change that to you go last. Or you don't go at all because you're incapacitated. I'm in a coma. How can I roll initiative? Inspiration. You gain inspiration. You expand it to gain yourself advantage on a d20 test. You must decide to do so before rolling the dice. The main way a character gains inspiration is by rolling a 20 on a natural d20 test. You can never have more than one instance of inspiration. If something gives you inspiration and you already have it, you can give your inspiration to a player character who doesn't. Oh, you can't stack inspiration. So no matter how many natural 20s you roll, you only get that inspiration once. If you roll another natural 20 and you're like, yeah, inspiration. It's like, no, you got to give it to someone else. You've got to give it to that guy over there. Unless he already has one, then you got to give it to that guy over there. Unless he already has one, then, by the time combat rolls around, at least everybody is, going to have one inspiration. But thankfully, inspiration goes away at long rest and when the game ends. So I like the fact you can't stack them. I don't mind the fact you can loan them to somebody else. I think inspiration is utterly pointless. I know I've never had it given to me in any 5e game I've played, but I've had other people tell me they have, so I don't know. If you still have inspiration at the end of a long rest, you lose it. You also lose it at the end of the game. A long rest is a period of extended downtime, at least 8 hours, during which you sleep and then perform whatever. Benefits of rest. At the end of a long rest, a creature regains all lost hit points. You also regain lost spent hit dice. You can't benefit from more than one long rest in a 24-hour period. And you must have at least one hit point at the start of the rest to gain its benefits. Nice. Okay, I like that. If the long rest is interrupted, it confers no benefits and must be restarted. Not happy. I'm happy with that. Musical instrument, blah, blah, blah. Primal spells, these are the spells for druids and rangers. I'd throw warlock in there. Or I don't even know why they need to have a separate one, but whatever. Slowed condition, limited movement. Anybody who tries to attack you gets advantage, and you have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. 2 of the 3 of those I'm fine with. I don't know why you would get disadvantage on dexterity. Well, yeah, I guess because you're too slow to react. Okay, I have no problem with that. Tool proficiency. Oh, you know how to use a tool. Will we ever actually explain what the tools do and what you can and cannot do with them? Who knows? Thermosense. Okay, there was some arguments over what thermosense meant because some people thought it meant just, a different name for infravision. But no, it's radar sense. A creature with thermosense can pinpoint the location of creatures and moving objects within the range, provided that creature and anything it's detecting are both in contact with the same surface or the same liquid. Thermosense can't detect creatures or objects in the air, and thermosense doesn't count as a form of sight. So yeah, it's radar. As long as you're touching stone, if anything else within that radius is touching something, stone, you can sense them. Now, I don't know if holding a rock lets you circumvent that. Well, I'm touching stone. It might, but probably not. I don't know. I know somebody's going to try it. Unarmed strike. Your target takes bludgeoning damage equal to 1 plus your strength modifier. Grapple. The target is grappled, and the grapple escape is 8 plus your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus. Shove. You either push the target 5 feet away or knock the target prone. The shove is possible only if the target is no more than 1 size larger than you. Okay. Spell list. We now have 3 main spell lists. The arcane list, the divine list, and the primal spell. So we have all the arcane casters cantrips now in one, which means you know, everybody gets to use, if you know, poison spray and light and friends and firebolt, shocking grass, spray of frost. Eldritch Blast is not on the list. So does that mean Eldritch Blast is gone for Warlocks, or is it still just something only Warlocks get? And then they give you a list of all the first level spells, including the Warlock spells. But I'm not seeing Eldritch Blast on here. But Hellish Rebuke and Hex are on here. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is now a first level spell. Was it first level before? Okay. Divine Spells, same. Wow, Divine Casters really get screwed on 0 level spells. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as opposed to Arcane Casters who have like at least 12, and Primal Casters who have at least 10. And then the first level Divine Spells, which look pretty much normal. And the Primal Spells, which look like, you know, the spells we've already seen Rangers and Druids to have, so nothing new. So that's it. Okay, so monsters don't get a critical anymore. I still haven't found that. We have to go back and look through the articles that were posted, which is next, about the digital onboarding and stuff like that, but right now. All right, so yes, this doesn't mean the edition wars are over. Wizards of the Coast is still going to support the other editions. Third parties are still going to support the other editions. Backwards compatible. There's no way, shape, and form 1 D&D is backwards compatible with 0 edition, 1st edition, 2nd edition, or 3rd edition. It's definitely not backwards compatible with 4th edition, and it's really not backwards compatible with 5th edition pre-Tasha, and it's barely backwards compatible with 5th edition post-Tasha. So yeah, the edition wars being over, that's bullshit. This is all going to change. So before you get all upset about Wizards of the Coast doing this and that and this and that, remember this means nothing. Everything I just read is going to go away. By the end of October, early November, we'll have the second round for the playtest. There's going to be a survey at the beginning of September, which, of course, Wizards of the Coast would completely ignore. But if the previous playtest taught us anything, yeah, nothing in here is going to stick. I mean, in D&D Next, the first round of playtest, it was completely different than 5e. The only thing that stuck was advantage and disadvantage. But they changed the explanation of how advantage and disadvantage works. The second playtest of D&D Next looked nothing like the first playtest of D&D Next. And by the time we got the third playtest, it pretty much looked like what 5e was. There was a few changes, but yeah. So this and the second, which will be out, I assume, in November, completely different. Also remember, Wizards of the Coast lies. All right? So take anything they're saying with a grain of salt. Just until it is in a hardcover book, don't believe anything Wizards of the Coast says. And just because I'm reading this doesn't mean I want you to play 1D&D. I'm not going to play it. Why would I? Why would I buy all the books again? 5e is fine. And if you don't want to run 5e and you want to run 1D&D, I'm not going to play because I'm not buying any more books for Wizards of the Coast product. You know, I've got my Player's Handbook. I've got Tomb of Annihilation. That's all I need. I've got a couple PDFs. I don't need to buy 1D&D, especially if the playtest is going to make everything for free. So, yes, will this cause more people to leave 5e and go check out other games? I think people who are playing 5e will probably still play 5e. There'll be a lot more interest in maybe other games because I'm hearing... the main thing I'm hearing is no. Now, I'm still waiting to hear from the actual 5e players, not the 5e shallow end marks. Not these Jeannie D, Scott Garrity, Mark Holmes, James Solomon, Corey Willis, all these guys, Professor Dungeon Master, you know, these guys who simp for Wizards of the Coast. No, I want to hear what actual 5e players have to say about this. So far, I've only heard from one actual 5e player is it's too complicated, and a lot of other are posting like, no, I'm done. This is going to cause me to look at other games, Wizards of the Coast. No, I'm done. This is stupid. I'm not buying everything again. There's some commentary about how Wizards of the Coast is making D&D a service, like I guess Netflix. and I assume that has to do with D&D Beyond and the D&D Virtual Tabletop. So we're going to have to read the information on that to see how people are getting that. There was a lot of misinformation regarding monsters not getting natural 20s or not being able to crit. It doesn't say that. It says player characters get this special ability, but it doesn't say NPCs don't. And remember, this is all just for player characters right now. This has nothing to do with the rest of the books. We're not playtesting Monster Manual yet or Combat yet. We're just playtesting character builds. We don't have classes yet either, or even how to roll a character or anything else. So, yeah, this is, wait. There's plenty of things in this to be upset about. We shouldn't be upset about things we're not sure about. If they take critical hits away from monsters, which would make sense, considering the way Wizards of the Coast is treating the game, maybe they'll give monsters something else instead. That guy doesn't get a critical hit, but he gets a special ability. I mean, the NPCs in Call of the Netherdeep, # worst adventure I've ever played, have special abilities that player characters don't get, and things that they get to do that replace things that a normal player character would do. The NPC wizard has this, cataclysmic blast that does 8d6 that they can use every other round. I can't do that, and I don't know who can. So maybe that's, NPCs will get different abilities on natural 20s instead of critical hits. Or maybe, we'll just wait and see. If I can give you any final advice regarding this, it's just wait and see. If you're not playing 5e, you're probably not going to play this. Nothing I say is going to change your mind. Nothing I do is going to change your mind. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to simp for Wizards of the Coast here, despite the fact I still have 10 shares of Hasbro stock. What I'm trying to do is let you know what's going on and give you my personal intake on it. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. You can call me names. Whatever. I'm hoping we can have an open discourse, and I hope by going through this step by step, we can either find something redeemable about this, or I can convince more and more people that, 5e is not the game you think it is. And if you want that experience, you should probably try other games. I mean, 5e is not D&D, okay? It's a different game. It always has been. Other than the D&D name, it's not D&D, and it was never meant to be medieval fantasy. And this is definitely not Gary Gygax's legacy, okay? So just shut that up. All right. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll be back with the news, which will probably be all about this anyway. So till then, I'm the OGGM. I hope you appreciate this content. If you do, take a moment to subscribe and help me hit 1,000 subs. Until then, I'll talk to you later.